Welcome back, everybody. Of course, welcome back to Skol with Steggie here on the Skol Purple podcast. I have a very special guest with us here today. We have Mr. Tanner Anderson. Tanner, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Steggie. I'm really excited to be here, ready to talk some Minnesota Vikings football. Let's Skol, baby.
As we all are. I mean, we took the week off. We had a bye week, which was very sad. I will be honest, I thought I was prepared, and I just felt lost on Sunday. I didn't know what to do. I went out and got groceries. I don't know if you've seen the meme from Narcos where he's just kind of hanging out on a swing set. That was me.
That was you. I was going to make that exact same joke. You're just staring off into an abyss, just 1,000-yard stare, didn't know what was happening. I was the same way. And, to add insult to injury, my fantasy team was absolutely horrendous. And because I didn't have Jamar Chase or Joe Burrow. And through the first few weeks of the season, my gambling hasn't been, let's say, good. And so I decided to take the week off, which was smart. So I had nothing really going on this weekend, and I felt lost like you did.
Yeah, speaking of Jamar Chase, not to get into news already, but I don't know if you saw the old breaking news. It was just a few hours ago. He looks like he might be headed to IR. He might miss 4 to 6 weeks now.
Stop it. Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh my! I just tried to trade for him. That is, I trade for Devontae Adams instead. I just trade. Wow, that's. I don't like when players get injured like that because they're so much fun to watch. And a guy like Jamar Chase, you were talking about it the other day about Jamar Chase and his hands. And just watching that guy play football, it's just a sight to behold. Him and Burrow and that Cincinnati team, they were really starting to click. So they're a lot of fun to watch. So that's a bummer. What was the injury?
I don't know. I honestly, it was so fresh. It was as I was preparing everything, that we're going to talk about today. I was just scrolling through ESPN because we're going to talk some betting lines and some fantasy outlook a little later. And just one of the headlines was that, he was injured and, looking at, I believe it's 2 to 6 weeks. So obviously if they feel like it could be 4 or more, they're probably going to put him on IR because that will free up a roster spot. So
don't you always find it funny with like football players and hockey players? It's like normal people timelines for injuries. Like you sprained your ankle. Don't do anything. Don't take a brisk walk outside. Don't go to jazzercise for 6 to 8 weeks. Like a football player is like, I'm going to rub some dirt on it. Like I'm on St. Brown. He has like a high ankle sprain. A week later, he's back out there. You're like, how? How is that possible? I feel like them and hockey players, they're like built from a different cloth.
Yeah, no, I can tell you that's absolutely true. I remember there was a moment this summer where I had to use the bathroom like at about 3:00 in the morning. Just woke up and it's like, all right, I'm gonna have to go and do my duty. And I stepped on the edge of a laundry basket that I didn't realize was there, and I didn't golf for like a month. So it's kind of the same thing, right? ACL injury, stepping on a
laundry basket,
on a basket. I don't know.
Apples and oranges. And oranges.
I did consult with the athletic trainer, and he told me, I couldn't. Only iron play.
Did you put out a press release to all your fantasy owners saying that you were going to be on the bench a little bit and that you weren't going to be out there golfing, but you were going to come back with the vengeance, hitting bombs and ripping brews when you get back out there with the boys?
Yeah, I did text my buddy who's pushing about 240, who works for the state, and let him know that there'll be a roster spot that's open up. They put me on IR, so they were free to fill that spot until I was able to come up.
The bowling league on Wednesday nights, you had to tell them too. It's just it's a trickle down effect. It's dominoes.
Exactly. I felt bad. No, in all seriousness, that's a tough injury for the Bengals, and I can tell you as a football fan, it's too bad because not to say they can't recover from this or that they won't still be able to succeed. It just felt like the last 2 weeks we started to see the 2021 Bengals again, and now with Chase being out, it might slow down that process or even make them pivot. Certainly, it's great for Tyler Boyd and Joe Mixon, I think.
And T. Higgins and Hayden Hurst.
Yeah. I just it's too bad. You'd like to see them firing at all cylinders, and but it is what it is.
The only team that I really don't feel any sympathy for when they have injuries at the Green Bay Packers. So if it's not happening to the Green Bay Packers, I really don't want to see it happen to anybody. So Aaron
Yeah.
Rodgers, I hope that thumb hurts you the rest of the season, buddy.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, obviously, with both of us being Vikings fans, and for anyone that has wondered since we started the show here, Tanner is also a Vikings fan. He is one of, yes, one of us, one of us, one of us. But the Green Bay Packers it's a tough spot because I'm with you. I don't want to see players get injured, but when Barr broke Aaron Rodgers' collarbone a few years back, I mean, there was a little part of me that's like, "Am I a sociopath?" Because I'm kind of happy about this right now.
Tendencies.
And
The
yeah,
best was they're aghast at the hit, saying it was a dirty play. It's like, no, that was called tackling. It's okay in football. You can tackle a player. He just fell on top of
right.
him awkwardly. Like, what do you think is going to happen when a 6'2", 260-pound man falls on top of you? Like, you think you're just going to wake up like, oh, that felt great?
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't the rule about essentially like landing on or driving the quarterback into the ground basically born out of that injury, or am I incorrect?
Okay, so I'm sure nowadays it would have been called a roughing the passer call, which doesn't change the broken collarbone for the record. But it's not like he piled. If memory serves, it wasn't a pile drive. It wasn't a lightly like, hey, I'm gonna rest you on this artificial turf right now. It was a tackle, and he fell on top of him with his full weight. It wasn't Tom Brady getting cut out low against the Kansas City Chiefs and tearing his ACL, so they changed the entire rule. So I don't know. I think at a certain point, Aaron Rodgers is like the boy who cried wolf, and you stop believing what he says and what he's selling. It's always somebody else's fault. I had a theory when he signed the contract that I actually put on my TikTok, and I got a lot of backlash on it. I said, I have a theory. Aaron Rodgers signed the richest contract in the history of the NFL, and it was fully guaranteed, which isn't going to allow the Green Bay Packers to make any moves at all. Is this his final FU to the Green Bay Packers for not putting enough stuff around him and not trading him when they want to trade him? Because if we remember right, he was playing one more year in Green Bay. Then he was the MVP. Then he signs a fully guaranteed 4-year contract for over $200 million. What better way to get back at the organization than to tie up all their cap space so they're terrible for 4 years? I don't know. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I had a theory a year ago and I got a lot of hate for it. All I know is my theory's looking a little bit better by the day.
Yeah, and I don't know if you saw the report that came out. I think it was either last week or the week before, but of course, it's always sources, right? Team sources. But there were some credible news outlets that did report this. I even feel like it was an ESPN article that came out that team sources verified that Aaron has told people in the building that this will be his last year and he is going to retire. And of course, we've heard this before. We certainly have seen the circus that's been around Tom Brady in similar fashion. But I kind of think he is done. And my reason behind it is similar to your thought, where I think Aaron thinks that he is like God's gift to the NFL. So I think in a way he feels like him retiring would almost be like a middle finger to the league. Like, yeah, no, I'm just done. What do you think about that?
Would you? I think it could quite possibly, because it's more of a temper tantrum. I have a feeling that if he was in Minnesota and throwing to Justin Jefferson and Irv Smith and Adam Thielen and having Dalvin Cook in the backfield, he wouldn't be saying that. I think it's a lot harder when you're getting your behind kicked every single day and you're not winning to be like, oh, I'm going to retire. I got my guaranteed money. But I actually want to spin it a little bit. So we know Kyrie Irving, right? Everybody calls Kyrie Irving a superstar, a star. Is he a superstar? Is he a star? So my question is who has been feasting off of a past performance for longer? And I'm not talking actual length of time. I'm just talking, we point to it. Aaron Rodgers' Super Bowl that was over 10 years ago, or Kyrie Irving's shot against Golden State that was 5 years ago? Because We can't say anything bad about Aaron Rodgers because that Super Bowl when they were a 6 seed and they went on a run and got lucky and won the Super Bowl. Had he not won the Super Bowl, how would we be talking about him? Same with Kyrie Irving. Had he not made that shot, how would we be talking about him? Totally different for both. And they're both still eating off of those moments.
Yeah, it is an interesting correlation there. However, I'm pretty sure. Do you think Aaron thinks the world is round? I don't know.
Flat.
Well, that's what I mean. I think he might. I mean, maybe he is in the flat Earth camp. I don't know.
Well, they both are intellectually arrogant, so we can say that beyond a shadow of doubt. They're both smug. They're both narcissists. So anyway, I didn't want to turn this into a Aaron Rodgers, Kyrie Irving socio-political bashing session, but hey, it was out there at a silver platter, so we might as well just hit it real quick. But
hey, all I'm saying is that I'm pretty sure that Kyrie's probably done a little bit of ayahuasca, and I mean, you never know what kind of theories you get when you're out there on those hallucinogenics. That's all I'm saying.
When you're pooping your pants on drugs, you never know what's going to happen.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I'm obviously not a big Packer fan, and the one thing coming back to the injury topic that we were discussing, I almost loathe when they have injuries because I don't know, and I don't want to like out you here, so you can certainly, I'll just keep it general here. I am in Minnesota. Tanner, I know you are not in Minnesota. I don't know how many Packer fans.
Hey! I put in my work, though. I put in my work. I put in 20 years of Minnesota citizen, and I got the hell out of there because I can't stand the cold. I love the people. I love the city. I'm in Minnesota, but I have a weak immune system, and the winters are really hard on my immune system.
It is. It is tough. Well, if you haven't noticed, this is actually just all layers. That's what this is. So,
okay.
That's how I prepare. I'm much like a squirrel. It's just all year long. I'm preparing, collecting the nuts. And then, but no, my issue is that I don't know how much you have to be subjected to Packer fans. And
my dad is one.
Okay. So you got a direct line then. You have one on speed dial. So you understand then that if we beat them at any time and they are not at full strength, that's not a real win. I don't know if you knew that or not.
Oh, the best. So my college roommate, Tony Thrasher, we lived together for 3 years in college. We were co-captains of our college basketball team, diehard Green Bay Packers fan. And I truthfully wasn't a huge football fan until college. And it was because of Tony Thrasher's annoyance. He was so obnoxious that it made me become a Minnesota Vikings fan just because I wanted to see him miserable. And you remember the Brett Favre playoff game, New York Giants, where he threw the interception in overtime and the Giants beat them? Yeah, I was watching that game with him. It was the greatest moment of my life. And so my dad grew up and he was a Green Bay Packers fan. And the best thing they always say, and I don't know if you get this, is when we talk about how Green Bay Packers are our rival, they always say, well, it just proves because you're not our rival. Chicago Bears are oldest rivalry in sports. I go, when was the last time you were worried about the Chicago Bears for an extended period of time? And then you have the debate. I said, if Aaron Rodgers played on the Minnesota Vikings during the Rick Spielman era, he would have more than one Super Bowl with the way he drafted. Then we go down the list of who's drafting who, and you get into debates. I can't even remember the Packers player because he sucked, about how Xavier Rhodes was overrated. Like Anthony Barr wasn't that good. Like Harrison Smith, he's not Ronnie Lott.
We're not allowed to exist in the world.
Exist.
Yeah. I hear that. I've absolutely heard that. Where they're like, "Yeah, well, you guys aren't our rivals. It's the Bears." And you're like, "Okay, so does that just mean like we're irrelevant then?" Like I don't understand. But I get, and I like the rivalry. I really do, because no matter what sport you're a fan of, it's the rivalries that really make it fun, right? As long as it's in good faith and nobody takes it too serious. So I do enjoy it, and I also enjoy the camaraderie that we have with the other NFC North teams or fans of those teams because of our mutual hatred of the Packers. Like I have some friends that are Bears fans, and that's like our whole core of our friendship is just hatred of the Packers.
Whenever a Packers fan says to you that the Vikings aren't the rival, the Bears are the rival, just ask them this. When was the last time there was a Bears Packers game of any importance? And what is your favorite memory from a Bears Packers game? And see if they can even answer it. There's no track record of any of this at all anymore. My father, for his 50th birthday, this is a long time ago, sports fans. It was Monday Night Football, Bears Packers, Brett Favre's last Monday night game. I would argue that was the last significant Bears Packers game they have played.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know about you, but when obviously, as certainly all of us remember, Favre, defected and came over to the Vikings. I think part of the sweetness of that whole era, that 2-year era, if you want to call it that,
one and a half,
was well. Let's put it this way: whenever he blacked out on the frozen field at what was it, TCF Bank Stadium, that's when it ended. When I saw his 48-year-old head bounce off that frozen turf, I was like, yep, he's regretting coming back. I don't think because at the time, quarterback contracts were getting big, but they certainly were not at the size they are now. And people might not remember when he signed with the Vikings that second year, everybody was like, this is a massive contract. And if you go back and look, I think it was like $20 million. Like, and not that that's a small amount of money, but I think that's like in the bottom 40% or something like maybe. I mean, obviously outside of rookie contracts, it's not way up there in today's money for quarterbacks. So, yeah, I don't think the 20 million was going to help him out. And I want to make a really funny joke that's topical with Brett Favre right now. And
yeah, I was actually going to make it for you. I was going to make it for you. Apparently, it wasn't enough money for him because the Mississippi government is now after him. And he's probably going to jail anyway. Moving on to the next subject, Brett Favre is a criminal.
Yeah, exactly. Let me just put that banner up here. I got that ready to go.
Boom.
No, that was a fun time to be a Viking fan, and I certainly will admit I rallied around the 09 season with Favre, and there was definitely a large element to the fact that if we would have won a Super Bowl with their most beloved player in the last, at the time, 30 years, it would have been. I mean, it just would have been amazing as a Vikings fan. So, but yeah, certainly when he left, I was like, yeah, we're done, and he's old, and whatever. I was done with that whole era. Again, when he died on the field against the Bears.
You hear the groan there? Because with every Minnesota Vikings discussion and memory, it's always followed by a 1998, 6th grade. My last name's Anderson. You know what two things happened in the year 1998 that were big for Andersons? The movie The Matrix came out, Mr. Anderson. And you know who.
Yeah, Mr. Don't Miss a Kick all year.
49 of 49. 49 of 49 indoors. 38 yards?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I suppose with that last name, they almost had to put you in solitary confinement for a week or so.
It wasn't great. Mr. Gunderson's class, they asked me if I was related to Gary. I am not. Obviously, his homely appearance and his lack of athletic ability does not fit the bill for over here. And it wasn't great time for me to be an Anderson. So I like to block that out of my memory, but I can't, especially since I do top 10 lists on TikTok. And I might have just done the top 10 greatest teams to never win a Super Bowl. And I'd be remiss if right behind the 07 Patriots, the 98 Vikings aren't just hanging out.
Well, and again, we've talked prior to the podcast today, and I know that we are similar in age. So you got to live through 98 just like I did. And my birthday that year, so my birthday's in early February.
Wait, my birthday's in early February 17th.
Yeah, 5th for me. Look at that. There we go.
Wow.
Yeah, making connections.
There we go.
So because of where my birthday is, if we would have gone to the Super Bowl in 98, I'm pretty sure it was like on my birthday. Yeah, and so it was like all of my dreams as a young Vikings fan just flushed down the toilet. I was so upset. I was very upset, and I had to live through the whole "Going to Miami" song with Will Smith. If you remember that, do you remember
Oh
that
yeah,
getting played
yeah.
on loop?
And Benito, Ami,
Oh
Yami.
my goodness! Yeah, yeah. If I have to hear that, like if I hear that song, I think I'm gonna go into some sort of like MK Ultra trance and
Bounce in the
start
club where the
smashing.
heat is on. All night on the beach to the break of dawn. I'm going to Miami. Welcome to Miami. Yeah, getting jiggy with it because Big Willie style wasn't parental advisory because Will Smith doesn't curse in his records. I do. Well, F him and F you too. Eminem. My mom let me have the Big Willie style album, and you know what? I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And then I listened to Bone Thugs and Harmony, and that changed. So
Yeah, as it
yep.
should.
Yeah.
As it should.
I think a guy in my league is texting me right now. Dang it. He won't trade me Justin Jefferson. I've been trying to. I swear, it's the new guy in my league. I've been harassing him. I don't think he's going to come back, and I'm the commissioner because he drafted Justin Jefferson. And I've been trying everything under the sun to get him, and he won't budge. What a jerk.
You're like, I'll throw in that danger witch that Russell Wilson keeps talking about.
You don't want Chris Olave and Raheem Mostert? What's wrong with you?
Yeah, come on. They're good. I am an Olave fan, but Mostert, we'll see. We'll see. We'll talk about actually those couple fellas might come up a little later on in the podcast. So
okay.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of great Vikings players, I want to hear who your favorite Viking of all time is.
Well, is it impossible? It's impossible for it to be anybody else when you're our age, isn't it?
I mean, kinda, but you never know. You could come. I've got some curveballs that have been thrown my way.
Okay,
so
how about this? I tell you stories because I grew up in Eden Prairie. So Randy Moss lived in my neighborhood, and Chris Carter lived in my neighborhood. So I didn't know these guys, but I used to deliver the newspaper. And I've said this on a few of my TikToks before, but Randy Moss used to deliver the newspaper to his house. And he lived in a cul-de-sac, and we'd play catch in the cul-de-sac. And this one time we're in the cul-de-sac playing catch. He drives his car from the garage, pulls out to the end of the driveway, yells at us. He goes, "Get off my lawn, kids." Pulls back into the garage and goes back inside his house. His rookie year in '98 for Halloween trick-or-treating, we were ringing his doorbell, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were playing on Monday Night Football. And he's sitting on his couch, didn't leave any candy out. And we're all knocking, and he didn't get up, didn't look back or anything. I told this story to Chris Berman, and Chris Berman's like, he goes, he's grown up a lot since then. And so Chris Carter, we had a hill that we used to sled down, and his backyard was at the base of the hill. And so one time we were sledding down the hill, and Chris Carter comes out and yells at us, and he goes, "You're going to ruin my grass. You guys are sledding. You're going to ruin my grass." And I yelled back at him. I go, "You don't even live here in the summer. Why do you care?" He lives in Florida. So I ran into Chris a couple of years ago, and I told him the story, and he goes, "I remember you."
Oh, that's too funny.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
It was. And Dante Culpepper, he used to go to Eden Prairie Mall, and he had this Cadillac Escalade with spinners, and he used to play his music so loud. So I used to drive a kid to high school and lived in Bear Path, and I'd always see Dante rolling through Bear Path, or whenever you see Dante, he'd have like a posse of people. He was probably like 24 or 25, but he was just hanging out at like the local mall in like a mink coat with all this jewelry on. You're like, why is Dante Culpepper going to see Slumdog Millionaire at AMC right now in a mink coat? I don't know.
Because
he can.
Yeah. Because he can. Yeah.
Weird. Because I think I said it. I don't know if you saw my series on like greatest Hail Marys ever, and I talk about like Tony Dungy used to drive me to school because he lived in the neighborhood, and his son who passed away, James, we were the same age and we were locker buddies, and we lived in the neighborhood. So my mom would drive us to school, and Tony after practice would pick us up and drive us home. And so I'd go over to Tony's house, the Dungy household, and things like that. Because people forget, before the practice facility was in Egan, it was in Eden Prairie. So I lived in a neighborhood called Olympic Hills, and all of the guys from the team would live in this area. Brett Favre rented a house that he rented out to Mark Matson down the street. And Mark Matson, when I was in high school, former Timberwolves player, used to come over because he was a single guy and have dinner with me and my mom, shoot baskets with me. Like, it's weird, but it's like, not to get like too, but I've lived in LA now for 15 years, and people are like, why don't you cheer for LA Rams? Why don't you cheer for the Lakers? Why don't you cheer for the Dodgers? I'm like, you don't understand. Like, this is a part of who I am. These people literally helped raise me. Like, you just don't like turn your back on them. And like, that's why, I haven't been there for so long. I probably will never live there again, but I'll always consider it home.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny that you bring up Mark Madsen, and I appreciate that you know who he is, because I like to use it's my Mark Madsen theory. Okay. And that is that amongst casual fans, sports fans, doesn't matter what sport, we all get sucked into this idea that, oh, this guy stinks. This guy sucks. Like, we see Garrett Bradbury, who just continues to get steamrolled, right? And it's like, come on. Or, you watch Kyle Rudolph in the latter part of his career where he's got cinder blocks for feet, and you're like, I swear I can outrun this guy, And my point to everyone who makes those types of statements, and this is where Mark Madsen comes into play, is as uncoordinated as Mark Madsen looked when he was an NBA basketball player. If you played, and I don't care if you are a rec league god, you got a bunch of medals and trophies, if you play Mark Madsen in one-on-one, you are not scoring a basket. Like, he is gonna dunk. Hey, hold on, because I know you've got some basketball cred here. I'm just talking about the guy at Lifetime Fitness.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
The guy at Lifetime that's like, yeah, I beat all the, the 40-year-old dads. It's like,
yeah, no,
these guys are amazing. They're amazing at what they do. They've been superstars at every level they've been at, which is why they are a professional in that sport. And so the worst guy on the team is going to be probably better than 99% of anyone else that is either not a professional or at least hasn't played or an organized sport past high school.
Yeah, no, and to your point, Mark Matson was a first-team All-American, averaged 20 and 10, and led Stanford to the Final Four. Right. Like, don't forget about that. And we used to play. We had a half a sport court in my backyard, and I would always beat him at horse, though, because I was a way better shooter than he was. But then, like, when he wanted to get a letter on me, he would just go up and dunk it. And I'd be like, maybe in a couple years, not my 15-year-old legs. They're not getting up there like that. But Chris Humphreys actually grew up with. And so we had a pretty good Eden Prairie squad and grew up playing in Eden Prairie flagship, which I think is a Lifetime Fitness now. And it was like me, Whitman, who played at Cornell, whose dad was Randy Whitman, the coach of the Timberwolves and the Cavs and the Wizards, and a bunch of guys that played college ball, and Chris Humphreys. And Chris was 2 years older than us, and obviously he played in the NBA for like 10 years and was awesome. But the night that he got drafted by the Utah Jazz in the lottery, he came to the gym the next day and challenged me to a game of one-on-one for $100, make it, take it. He started with the ball and he said that I wouldn't get the ball back. And I looked at him, I go, Chris, at the time I was like 6'1", I'm 6'5" now, but I was 6'1", like 138 pounds. He's 6'9", like 250. And I'm like, what do you have to prove?
Yeah, right.
Like, congrats, Chris. You're going to the NBA.
Yeah. Well, he probably shouldn't have bet you Kim Kardashian. So that, he was probably a little out of line for doing that, but
Yeah, I don't think she was a blip on his radar at that time. That guy, man, I got Chris Humphrey stories. But to answer your question, Randy Moss. And then I think after that, man, I mean, Adrian Peterson, you always got to throw in there.
Sure.
John Randall, he was like really cool when we were growing up. Jared Allen. Like Jared Allen was so much fun. Like when they ask for extra mayo, you say yes. When they say how you're gonna get around the wall, you say you go through it. Like he was just so much fun. I think Thielen, because homegrown kid, like Mankato and that whole thing. And then JJ Jetta, like not for nothing, Justin and Ant, they are Moss and Garnett 2.0
Yeah.
for us.
Yeah.
Like they are. And I'd say there's never going to be any kicker. I'm not going to pick a kicker. I'm not going to pick Chris Carter because he doesn't let me sled into his backyard. I'm not going to pick Jake Reed because I've never heard him talk. I'm not going to pick a quarterback because I hate them all. Outside of Randall Cunningham, I love you. And yeah, I think, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you. Of course, it's got to be Randy. Randy was just such a. It's hard to think of another receiver that was so dominant and so good at so many different things. I know the debate amongst NFL fans, not Vikings fans, because we know the truth. No, but amongst NFL fans is that it's like the TO Randy Moss debate, and to me, it's and not to take anything away from Terrell Owens, but I always felt like Owens was, I don't know, Owens was like LeBron to Randy's Jordan, not Kobe, Randy's Jordan, only because I felt like T.O. was bigger, he was stronger, he wasn't quite as fast. He was good at like he could do a lot of things that required a lot of physical strength, and he was very tough and in his prime. But Randy, in his own right, was I mean, he was tall, sure, he was thinner, but it's not like he wasn't physical. He was a much better hands catcher. He was faster. Like I don't know. To me, it doesn't seem like much of a debate there. So no, I think Randy is by far my favorite Viking, and I personally think if he would have had the longevity and probably the quarterback play that Jerry Rice was able to have, I think he might be the best receiver ever to play. So that's my opinion.
No, I agree. I think the comp is actually more Kareem Abdul-Jabbar because
okay, yeah,
Kareem. When we're growing up, nobody had a Kareem GOAT debate. Nobody talked about Kareem GOAT. And then all these analytics nerds start going in like 2010. And all of a sudden, like, hey, don't forget about Kareem as the GOAT. And you're like, what are you talking about? We had Bill Russell at him like 5 years ago. Nobody was having this conversation. Then you checked out the stat sheet. You checked out the advanced analytics. And now all of a sudden, Kareem's the GOAT. Kareem's top 5 all time, but he ain't the GOAT. Terrell Owens, I was there for it. He's top 5 all time. Controversial opinion for many reasons. I would take Antonio Brown over Terrell Owens. I'm not saying people are going to put him above, but as far as dominance in their prime, Antonio Brown was insane, literally and figuratively.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I saw that pool video.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
CTE is real and it's not fun. Like, my goodness. I don't want to get too deep on it, but like, clearly he has it. How do you help somebody with it while they're alive so they don't become Junior Seau?
Yeah. It's a tough discussion, and I think that as football fans, it's something that I think we turn a bit of a blind eye to because we like the sport so much and we enjoy watching football. But certainly, we had a very scary reminder, earlier this season with Tua. I mean, anytime you see a guy take a shot to the head, and I know his head hit the turf, but it was his back, right? No, but his head hit the turf, and then he loses all function of his body, right? He can't, he's out, and you see the rigidity in the hands, and it's scary stuff, man. I saw that one live, and I wish I hadn't, because of course, they try to do the like, oh, that doesn't look good. Well, we better get a commercial. And all I'm thinking is like, man, we don't want to show this replay. And I'm sure everybody in the front office of the NFL went, don't show the replay. But you see that stuff, man, and it is tough. And you wonder what they can do differently. And I know they try to do a lot of stuff with equipment. I just think at some point, there's only so much you can do with equipment. I mean, these guys are massive human beings. And here's my Kevin Williams stat that I like to use when just making a comparison. Kevin Williams was what, six? What was Kevin Williams, like 6'4", 6'7"?
I thought he was 6'7". Oklahoma
Yeah,
State. Yeah.
6'7", easy 3+ bills, right? At the combine, he ran like a, what was it, like
Yeah.
a one, or what was it, a
He ran sub 5, I think.
yeah, he ran, it was like, it was something stupid like it wasn't that much slower than Laquan Treadwell ran his 40. And to think of a guy that big moving that fast, like that's just, it's like, and I know other NFL players have made this comparison as someone that played football at I think a fairly high level, not for me, just people against me.
Yeah.
It's like getting hit by a car. It is it's just terrible. And I brought this up on the podcast last week when I had my guest on for Skol with Steggie. I had a couple concussions, and one of them was in high school, and I was running down the field. It was on kickoff, so I'm running down the field, and I got ear-holed by somebody. Didn't even see it coming. Decleated me, and I was out. Like it was darkness. And of course, we're talking high school football. So there is no, physician spotter that's watching for injuries or certainly head injuries. So I just like woke up on the field, and then I went back to my respective sideline, and I just didn't tell anybody, and I kept playing. But of course, looking back on it now, it's like how scary. But that kind of lends to that, second facet, which is these guys are such insane competitors. To hear that Tua, literally on the ambulance ride from the stadium, was asking about what happened on the play. Like that was his question. What happened on the play? The play where I just like lost consciousness.
Wow.
And to think that this guy is concerned about what's going on and I get it's his profession, but it's a game, and at the end of the day, is it worth your health? And it's scary stuff.
Yeah, my college basketball career ended because of concussions. And it was before a time when there was like a sensitivity to it. So it was a really horrifying experience because it's not like a broken, see it sticking out of the skin or whatever. There's an X-ray. It's just like, and at that time it was like, oh, rub some dirt on it, you're okay. And final point, because I'm name dropping so much, I might as well do one more name drop. Antonio Gates moved in next door to me, the Chargers tight end.
Yeah.
And when I was drafting my fantasy team, I was talking to him a little bit. Become friendly, and I'm 6'5", 220 pounds, and I'm standing next to this man who is my height, but probably has 50 pounds of muscle on me, and he's 42, 43 years old. And there's moments like that when you just go, well, okay, I never had it. Never had a chance. And like, you imagine somebody like him, he's 16 years of punishment he took and was putting out on people, and the force that he was getting. And I asked him about Antonio Brown, and I didn't want to get into the CTE discussion, but he just shook his head and he goes, dude, if I told you this kid when I first met him was soft spoken and kind, and this person I don't even know who it is, it's like, sorry, there's ambulance things. It's sad. It really is sad. And like, there's a direct correlation on that Burfict hit to his change in personality. And it's sad. That's all.
Yeah. Well, he was, pre all of the drama and antics and just whatever, right? Incredible talent.
Work ethic, route runner, footwork. He was in hands. He was, man, imagine if that guy got 6 more inches of height.
Yeah, right.
My goodness.
Well, he played bigger than what he was, and to make a Vikings connection, I remember when Diggs came in the league. That was kind of my thought. I was like, man, this guy seems like the next Antonio Brown, and certainly he's had a lot of success here and with Buffalo, but similar type of players in the sense that they play bigger.
Well, that's a good person to bring up, and I think that's a good little conversation to have. Is we can't forget Diggsy Like he was great for us for a few years, and obviously he wanted out. Obviously, him and Kirk didn't play, and you know what? It worked out for both teams. But Minnesota Miracle is the greatest moment of our franchise, and he was that, and he was so great. He was great in the community. He got his first big contract. So when you talk about all-time favorite Vikings, Diggsy's got to be up there. Like I really love that guy. And I cheer for him still.
Yeah, yeah, and no love lost for me either. And to be honest with you, I was kind of on his side. I mean, it certainly turned out to be the case with the Zimmer era and some of his gripes that he had with the way that at least the offense was being run. Certainly at the time, the defense was playing well for Minnesota, but yeah, I mean, there were definitely some things that I think we could have done a lot better. And at the end of the day, you already mentioned this. I don't think anybody feels bad about the trade. I mean, we have Justin Jefferson. He's doing well in Buffalo. It's hard to not like Buffalo as a Minnesota fan, too,
Yeah.
because, I mean, they've been to 4 Super Bowls. They haven't won any. Jeez, does that sound familiar?
Yeah.
And they're in the AFC, so it's not like we see them a whole lot either.
Yeah.
They're kind of my number 2.
If you ask Bills fans who they'd want to win the Super Bowl if it wasn't them, they'd say us, and I think it's the same for us.
Yeah.
Like, once again, Chris Berman, when I was talking to him, he's a Bills fan, and he said just as much. And I'm like, I like the Bills. Josh Allen is probably my favorite NFL player. Like, that guy is a magician. I love watching that guy play. I love watching that offense. So yeah, and you know what? Bills fans are great. Like, they give money to charity. They're about the right things. They support their team, hell or high water. It's not a front running. Like, good on you, Buffalo Bills Mafia. I'm very happy, and it'd be a ton of fun if somehow the heavens parted and the Bills and Vikings made the Super Bowl this year.
I made a prediction about that. I said that if we were to have a Vikings Buffalo Super Bowl, what we would quickly find out is there's some obscure rule that allows for a tie in the Super Bowl. and then we just have like Goodell would come down and just sawzall the Lombardi in half. And then that's how it would work. And then Green Bay would say, look at that. You still don't have a whole one. And then, we'd all be on witness protection for a while. But
so how did the COVID era end? It was such a big moment in time. Well, the moment that it was officially over was there was a tie in a Super Bowl between the most two pathetic franchises the sport has ever known. It's crazy, but that's what we knew it was over. And things got back to normal the next year, and the Patriots drafted a Hall of Fame quarterback, and the Steelers were good again, and the Bills and Vikings were terrible.
That sounds like a great start to like a comedic sports movie about the Vikings. Let me tell you about the summer of 2022. We were just coming out of a pandemic. Yeah. Well, that's kind of a nice little segue. I'd like to get your take on how you're feeling about the ball club this year, how you're feeling about our chances to continue on this path at 5-1. And then certainly you can tell me how you're feeling about Sunday too.
Well, I said before the season to one of my buddies who's a Dolphins fan, I said we're going to be 13-4 this year. I said that before the year, and he laughed at me. He goes, "You're out of your mind. You're a homer." I'm like, if you know anything about me, I'm actually not a homer. You can go to my TikTok. I'm actually not a homer. I'm the biggest realist. Actually, I'm probably harsher than I need to be normally. Like, my criticism of Kirk Cousins are probably worse than the worst critic. I said 13-4. The reason I said that, look at the schedule. Look at the schedule. It's harder to have an extra home game. Then you got the London game, which technically was a road game. And it's all lined up right there for you to go 13-4. And they're 5-1, and they've played one half of good football, and was the first half of the season. That's it. They haven't played any good football. It hasn't been appealing to watch. It hasn't been clicking. It hasn't been fluid. They haven't won they haven't won special teams, defense, and offense in a single game yet. All three categories. And so if they can come out of this bye week and Cousins better grasp on the playbook, chemistry starts getting there. 13-4, 2 seed in the NFC. That's what I think. What about you?
Yeah, I think we're going to be fine. I think the overall, well, I should back up. My preseason prediction, since you gave me yours, my preseason prediction was 11-6. So I wasn't quite as optimistic, but I had us at 11-6 and winning the division at 11-6. Granted, my other prediction was that Green Bay would be right there at 10-7, and we'll see.
Oh,
I I, I don't
I
think
thought
there's.
Detroit. I thought Detroit was going to be number 2.
I thought Detroit would have been better than what their record suggests they are now, and I still think they're better than what their record
I
suggests.
agree.
I thought that Detroit would end up at about 6, maybe 7 wins, and but being competitive in almost all of their games. Like that's kind of how I envision them this year, and they have been competitive, but the last two, they've been pretty ugly. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is. They're a young team. Hard Knocks certainly made me a bigger fan of Dan Campbell. I
I
can tell
love
you
that
that.
guy. I've
Oh,
always loved that guy. I've always like last year when he was like crying at the podium because they lost a heartbreaker. I'm like, I I'm a sap for things like that. Like I don't know if you saw my reaction video to the Minnesota Timberwolves the other night, but I had friends like texting me about they're like, man, you like got emotional. And I was like, I go, there's only thing that I don't understand in life is when people don't care. It's literally the only thing that you can control is how much you care. And so when you see a guy like Dan Campbell who's leading a bunch of young men and trying to teach them how to be professionals, care that much when nobody else cares, that sets an example of how to not just go about your profession, but how to go about your life. You
yeah,
got to care when nobody's watching. And that's what disappointed me about the Timberwolves the other night was there's a kid that was in that crowd that was watching a basketball game in person for the first time in his life, was watching his heroes play, and his heroes didn't care. His heroes didn't show up. And so that is telling that kid it's okay sometimes not to show up and not to care. And so for me, the Brian Flores's, the Dan Campbell's, the Pete Carrolls, like I would love to play for Pete Carroll. Like those guys that really, really care. Even if nobody else does, we've seen what Pete's doing in Seattle this year, where the team nobody gave a chance. Those are the teams that I cheer for and I really like.
yeah. You got to feel good for Gino too,
Great.
because as much as we want to rag on Gino, I mean that guy is. I mean he's certainly put in the work and the time, and he's looked great this year. And I think with anyone at that level of again play, and we talked about this with other sports just before in conversation. Clearly, he has a lot of talent. He's in the NFL for a reason. But I think what separates the elite players from the middle tier and certainly your lower tier players is that consistency. Can you consistently be good to great? And I mean, certainly, I think Kirk Cousins struggles with that. But I think that's where Geno's probably had the struggles is because I'm old enough to remember Geno when he was a younger player, and I remember seeing flashes. Like this guy's got some talent. You know, he can move around a bit. He's got a great arm. He's got a cannon of an arm. But it's just could he put it together consistently? And generally, that's the answer's been no. But you love to see a guy put it together on a team that everybody thought is this team even going to win 3 games, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's just so cool to see. So yeah, I hope they continue to keep winning. And I don't think we play them, so what do I care? Um,
Yeah.
yeah, but as far as the Vikings are concerned, man, I think we'll be fine. I'm worried about the defense. I'm really worried about the defense. And if you've been a football fan for long enough and you track stats because you're a nerd like me and you want to take time away from your family to track stats every week, um, the one thing that is pretty consistent in football is that defenses don't generally improve throughout a football season. Sometimes they can because of injuries, right? Like if you get people back because of injury. But I'm just talking about you've got your 11 starters for the majority of the season. How do they look from start to finish? And generally speaking, defenses don't improve. They are what they are, kind of. And that's okay. It just means that our offense really needs to start clicking like I think they can because
Mhm.
offenses guess what? Can improve. Statistically speaking, that is something that does happen every year. And we have the weapons. So I just think this is a team where we're going to have to consistently outscore our opponents. And sometimes the defense will need to show up, and that's going to be great. But we're not going to be able to rely on the D this year. It's going to have to be Kirk Cousins and the show to get us over the hump. But I think we can do it. I'm worried about facing Philadelphia again, but boy, wouldn't it be sweet? I had this thought in my head earlier today. Wouldn't it be sweet if we got to the NFC Championship game and it's Vikings Phillies or a Vikings Philly, and we take them out to go to the Super Bowl, just like they took us out in 2017.
I don't know, man. That's a tall task. Those Philly fans are pretty gnarly. I have questions since you know. So in the draft this year, that safety from Notre Dame, I forget his name right now. That's who I wanted the Vikings to take, and then we traded with Detroit and traded back. Do you know who I'm talking about? The safety from Notre Dame?
The school does not ring a bell, but I would probably recognize the name.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just going to ask you how he was doing, especially since our first round pick.
Do you remember where he went?
Notre Dame. He was the safety from Notre Dame.
Oh, I meant like which NFL team drafted him?
No, I don't. I think it was Baltimore.
Oh, yeah. I'm not sure. I'm not sure on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of Baltimore, they're playing right now. It's Thursday Night Football.
Yeah, I have not been able to pay attention to the game, and you know what? I'm not gonna, because all my attention is on you, Tanner. That's right.
Wow.
Yeah,
Thank you, sweetheart.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea what's going on either. We can't even guess the line right now because we could actually guess the line because we don't know what's happening.
That's true. Well, it is part of one of the lines that I have for us, which is a nice little segue. It's the first one that we have. So okay. I promise I won't look, and we can get through some of the games here. So what I'm going to do is show all of the NFC North games, so where we have an NFC North team playing, and then the primetime games. So obviously that'll include tonight's game. And no, I do not know what's happening. But yes, Thursday Night Football, we've got Ravens at Bucks. The line going into the game was Ravens -1, over under at 45.5. How you feeling about that one?
I would take the Bucks and I would take the under.
Really?
Yeah.
Because see, I'm gonna go Ravens, but I'm still gonna go under.
I feel like the blitz packages are really going to give Lamar trouble, especially without a full week to prepare. And Tom Brady, who do you trust more on a short week despite everything that's happening? I feel like their backs against the walls, prime time. They don't want to go 3-4. They don't want to embarrass themselves on national TV because if they do it, you got 2 days of talking heads going, is it done for Tom? Should he just retire? They go 4-3. They're still in first. They can make a push here. I think Bucks home, Ravens traveling, short week. Lamar's been struggling, blitz packages, injuries racking up. Bucks under.
Yeah. I like your thought process there. The Ravens have been really, really bad against wide receivers too. Like,
should we check right now? See how we did?
Yeah, let's see. Where are we at?
All right.
You can feed me the deets.
Let me check it real quick. Can't believe you won't trade me, Justin. Buccaneers 10, Ravens 3, second quarter, 9 minutes to go. So we are on pace for the under. Fournette had a 1-yard touchdown. Lamar 9 for 13, 54 yards.
Ooh, that's ugly.
Mark Andrews 3 for 33. Yeah, pretty rough. And Lamar's been contained in the pocket, only 1 rushing yard.
Ooh. Yeah. All right. Well, it looks like you were spot on that one. I just I'll tell you what rattled my confidence in Tampa was that insane loss they had last week to Carolina.
That was embarrassing. And Pittsburgh the week before. My goodness.
Well, I don't know what happened. I mean, I could still understand losing to Pittsburgh more than Carolina. Carolina is so bad right now.
Yeah, but they're still pros, and they probably, that locker room. It's McCaffrey's not a cancer. I think we all know that. Robbie Anderson was. But when everybody says you're a professional athlete that you suck and you can't do something, you're like, oh, I'm going to show you. They're competitive at the end of the day. And you get an opponent that underestimates and they let them hang close. The confidence starts building and you're like, oh, all of a sudden we're in trouble. See it all the time. You
mean Robbie Anderson, the third island boy?
The third island. That's a good one. Oh, man. That hair is a commitment, though, because you anything else with it. When you're done with it, you got to shave the whole thing.
It's true.
You got to commit. Like, good for you.
Yeah, I'm thinking about being the fourth. So
you're gonna be the fourth island boy.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
What face tat? I want to see the face tats you'd get.
No, it's actually all gonna be chest and belly tats because I'll be the husky island boy. So I got to play the character,
The island bear. You'll be the island bear.
There we go. I like it.
There's your Halloween costume. You're welcome.
Yep. And I'll be the nice one when I go to talk to Logan Paul. I'll be the voice of reason. All right. Next one we've got is Bears at Cowboys. Cowboys are currently -9.5. We've got an over/under at 42.
Cowboys under.
Cowboys and under, huh? Yeah, it's a stinker. It's a stinker. The funny thing is with the Bears game, or with this Bears game, I think a lot of people will or I should say they will think, well, the Cowboys have this amazing defense, and they do have a good defense. But I don't think that most people will take into account that Dallas actually has been kind of weak against the run this year. I mean, I know statistically it looks like they've been okay, but the games where they've been able to pad those stats were the Rams, and the Rams don't run at all. So, of course, the Rams put up 38 yards against them. And then the other game was Cincinnati in week 2, where, Cincinnati was playing like, the Panthers. But the other games where there is a competent run game, Tampa Bay puts up 152. The Giants put up 167. Washington puts up 142 yards on the ground. And then Philly, 136. So
are you picking the Bears, or are you just picking the Bears against the spread?
I think the Bears are going to beat the spread. Yeah.
So you think this is going to be like $17?
I think the Bears are going to beat the spread, and I think it's going to go over.
So you think this is going to be Bears game plan against the Vikings? They have them on the ropes, and the Cowboys win at the end, and Bears score 21, 24 points.
Yep, I'm gonna say Cowboys win 24-20.
Okay.
Yeah,
I like that pick. I like that. I like that pick a lot. I don't feel I'm impartial one way or another. I just have so much. I was so much like, I like Justin Fields' moxie. I like this kid, and then I saw he couldn't make a 5-yard throw, and I was like, you know what? I'm out. And I'm standing on that island, not an island boy, but I'm on that island, and I'm going, you know what? Looked really good on Monday night, but I'm not going to try to, be a creature of the moment. I saw those 5-yard in routes that can't be hit, but maybe he's learned his lesson. Maybe he's like, you know what? I got an awesome deep ball. Maybe I should chuck it 3 to 5 times a game down the field. And who cares if one gets picked off?
Well, last week it seemed like he really embraced his ability to get outside of the pocket and just run. I mean, there were moments where he took or tucked the ball in and he just took off. I saw him pick up in a matter of, and I'm talking, television time, so not game time. I watched the game for like an hour. I probably watched him pick up 5 or 6 third and longs with his legs. Wow. 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9. So if he can embrace that a little more, I think he'll be all right, because it is a threat. I just think he doesn't like being labeled a running quarterback, and he wants to pass from the pocket. But he doesn't have anybody to throw to, so I don't know what he's waiting for. So
yeah, I didn't watch the game. Timberwolves were on.
Oh, the old pups, yeah.
The old Timberwolves bringing me disappointment.
That's right. Yeah. Well, that's for another podcast, but I'm excited about the Wolves.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Next game, we've got Dolphins at Lions. We got Dolphins -3.5, and our over/under is 51.5. You want me to go first, or you want to go first on this one?
Why don't you go first?
I think the Dolphins are going to kill the Lions. But I think they're just going to take them to task. I wish it wasn't true. I do think it's going to go over. But I think it's going to be the majority of that's going to be the Dolphins, and then there's going to be some garbage time, points that are scored by the Lions. My prediction on this one is The Dolphins end up somewhere in the high 30s, maybe even 40s. And the Lions end up, maybe 21, 24, something like that.
38-31 Dolphins. It's 38 like 24 or 38-17 with like 5 minutes to go in the fourth. And then Goff leads them down for a touchdown. And then they just try to do 3 runs up the middle with Mostert. Can't get it. They punt. And Goff throws that garbage time touchdown with 26 seconds left. Oh, there's an onside kick. Watch out. What a comeback. Oh, and the Dolphins recover. And that will do it here from Ford Field. Dolphins 38 ends 31. I've seen this story a lot before. It was a guy by the name of Blake Bortles. I don't know if you remember him. He had a similar playbook. And so I have a feeling that old Jared Goff's going to follow that playbook.
Yeah, Detroit's defense has been so bad. Their average is over 32 points a game is what they're surrendering. So there's that.
I loved Aaron Glenn. Aaron Glenn on Hard Knocks was awesome. He riled me up. Where's the Rodrigo?
Where is Rodrigo? I'm gonna make a shirt that says that, and I'm gonna make that, and we're going to the game. Actually, have they already been to US Bank Stadium?
Yeah, we beat them barely. Amon-Ra.
We missed our opportunity.
It was funny though, because I was like, I'm cheering for Rodrigo, and I was watching the Viking game, like, and there's Rodriguez who goes by Rodrigo. I'm like, oh my god, he's tiny. Like, I know why he was a 5th round pick. Now that is not the second coming of Lawrence Taylor.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, our next game is arguably our most favorite game of the weekend.
Over Vikings. Let's go. Let's go. Over. Offense clicks. We shut him down. Kyler Murray in his little baby running style. He's like a little toddler out there. Danielle's going to be on him. And we are going to smack that all on the floor. Smack that. They're not going to want no more. We're going to smack that. Yeah. Vikings over. Prediction. I'm going to say 35-21.
I love your enthusiasm. I have to play spoiler here. If it were my money and not just Steggie dollars, I would. I'm taking the Cards. I think this is going to be a tough game for the Vikings. We have not done well against any. I know anyone who's had mobility. If you look how we played against Hurts, you look how we played against. I mean, if Fields had anyone to throw to, I think we may have lost that game. Even Skylar Thompson and Teddy Bridgewater on his bionic knee. Just anybody with mobility, man. It's a sore spot for this defense. We do not blitz, nor do we apparently keep anyone in the pocket, even though we don't blitz. So I'm a little worried. I'm worried that D-Hop's going to have a day. And my final prediction is Cards, but still the over.
You just ruined my mood.
Yeah. I know that, you may want to end the podcast now. So I'm just going to go ahead.
I'm going to go play in traffic for a second because I was having a great time. And then I came out with such enthusiasm and you made some valid points. And now I'm not going to sleep tonight because I am concerned.
Yeah. Tanner is currently ripping up my contract as the Bear Island boy as we speak.
Yeah. Exactly.
You can kiss that Bear Island boy goodbye.
Yeah, done. You're suspect.
So, second to last game we've got is our Sunday night matchup, which is Packers and Bills. Yeah, Packers, Bills. I don't think. Now, you know what? I'm going to let you tell me what you think about this game.
All that came to my head was, it's so hard to say goodbye to yesterday by Boys to Men. I don't know why. I was just like, had that in my head. It was like, it's so hard. I feel like that's what Green Bay Packers fans are going to be singing after this game. They're going to be like, wow, yesterday was so great. Like, time of yesteryear, 30 years of Hall of Fame quarterback play. And now we've got Jordan Love and no weapons on offense. And a defense that is overpaid. Are we the worst team in the NFL if Aaron Rodgers retires? And that fills me up with so much joy.
Yeah.
So much joy. And I feel like Green Bay Packer and New England Patriots fans deserve, at minimum, 20 years of misery. Bills, over. Embarrass them.
Yeah, I don't think there is a chance in hell that the Packers uh, win this game. I don't even think there's a big chance or good chance that they beat the spread. So I'm with you. I'm going to take Bills here. I think it's going to be an ugly one. If I were to give a score prediction here, this is a tough one because I think it's going to be so lopsided that I almost feel like it's going to go under because it might be something stupid like a 28-7 or 6.
The Bills might get bored because they're whooping that ass so bad that they're going to pull out JP Lossman out of retirement and they say, hey, why don't you have a crack at this? You didn't have a great run while you were here. Why don't you come out of retirement and come have a good drive or two because even you could score on this bum team.
This is where Devin Singletary is going to show up this week.
Cook's brother, payback for his brother.
Right. Yeah,
third string. Right. What? My brother runs all over you guys. I'm going to do it too. It's family tradition.
That's right. Too many cooks in the kitchen. We could go all day with this. I like it. I like it. All right, last game on the slate is Monday Night Football. Bengals at Browns. We got Bengals minus 3.5, over and under is 47, with the news that Jamar Chase is for sure out this week, maybe multiple weeks.
You go first.
I'm gonna say Bengals still. I don't trust the Browns. It's still Jacoby Brissett. I know they're at home. I do think the Bengals are clicking a bit more. And even without Chase, I think there's still weapons. You still have Tyler Boyd. You still have T. Higgins, Joe Mixon. This is still a good team. I am a Burrow believer, and I just don't think that Cleveland is great. Cleveland's giving up over 26 points a game. They're really bad against the run. They gave up 238 yards to the Chargers, 202 yards just on the ground to Atlanta. I just think this is a big day for Mixon. I think they probably keep it conservative because of missing Chase and trying to get their bearings. I still think it's too much. So I think the Bengals win. I don't know if they kill him. My final prediction is, I'm going to say, final prediction on this one is a 20. Might be actually they might beat the spread because my gut feelings tell me 20-17.
Mine's 24-21 Bengals.
Yeah, so that's a tough one.
Yeah, under and Browns technically would get it. I just think Stefanski's a good coach. I don't think he's a good game manager. I think he's a good game planner, good game schemer. I don't think he's a good game manager. And I think with Nick Chubb, you're able to control the clock and you're able to slow it down. You're able to bleed out the clock. So I don't think it's going to be high scoring at all because they're not going to want to get in a shootout. And as you were saying with the stats, if they're running the ball, a lot of times it's going to go off the clock, which generally when that happens, the games are closer, even if the teams don't look like they should be close. That happens. We've seen that happen with the Vikings quite often. And it's very, very frustrating. And I think it's going to be one of those frustrating games for Bengals fans, and they're going to pull it out at the end.
Yeah. Yeah, this one has a recipe to be potentially a snore fest because the Bengals match up well. They're good against the run. They're only averaging giving up 119 yards on the ground, and they've only given up a total through 7 weeks, 3 rushing touchdowns.
Oh man, that's not good because I have Chubb in my fantasy. It's gonna be one of those games where I'm like refreshing the fantasy app. I'm like, wait, it's midway through the third quarter and he hasn't gotten another yard. What happened? Oh, the Bengals are controlling the clock out of halftime. They're on a 9-minute drive. Awesome. This is great. Oh, great. Jacoby Brissett got the ball back, went 3 and out, and now the Bengals have the ball back again. Now I'm in the fourth quarter, and Chubb still doesn't have a point in the second half. This is going swimmingly.
Yeah, I'm sure anyone that's betting on this game, if they take the Bengals, it'll be like a 12-9. It'll be some bad beat where they still cover and they beat the spread. But all right, well, we have one last segment, Tanner, and this is going to be a fun one, and it's one that I'm going to be doing every week from here on out, which is where we pick a fantasy team. We're going to draft a fantasy team where we'll just kind of go back and forth drafting players. Of course, we can only draft one player can only be drafted to one team. So if Tanner picks somebody that I want, too bad, so sad. He's got him, I don't. And then as the week rolls through, once we get into episode 3 next week, I will, of course, reveal the results as to how we, how everything played out. If Tanner took me down, or I was able to be victorious. So we'll go through. I'm going to call this one Fantasy Smash with Steggie. Because I thought about that for longer than I would like to admit. And that's what I landed on. So, we're rolling with it. We're doing a little fantasy smash with the Stegemeister. So it'll be just a standard lineup here. One quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, tight end, flex, kicker, defense. And of course, because I am a gracious host, Tanner, I'm going to let you have the first pick. And certainly you can go in any order, or I guess I'll leave it up to you. Do you just want to pick at random, or do you want to go through the list of positions where you pick a quarterback, I'll pick a quarterback, and kind of go from there? I'll leave that up to you. The structure is up to you.
Why don't we just go back and forth? Let's pick each position like we would in a regular fantasy draft, right? And then we'll snake it. So I'll go, you go twice, then I go twice. And are we doing PPR?
So I'm thinking full PPR because I like high scoring. You know what I mean?
I like PPR too. All right. So first pick, I'm taking Saquon against Seattle.
You son of a...
Yeah, they are going to run all over them.
I see your Saquon, and I am going to take Derrick Henry.
Go ahead. You're up again.
Yeah, and then in the quarterback spot,
you better not do it.
I'm going to take Mr. Jalen Hurts.
Oh, great. That's perfect for me. I'm going to go Joe Mixon after you're perfect, giving me the inside track on the rushing D. And because you have a quarterback now, I can wait for a while, which is lovely because I'm going to get my guy still. Strategy. This is why 3-time champion, 3 of the last 4 years. I'm going to go wide receiver. And give me some Tyreek Hill action.
Okay. All right. So far, I've got Hurts, Henry, and you have Saquon, Mixon, and Hill.
Yep.
I like those picks. Those are good picks.
Thank you.
I am going to go... Let's see. I'm going to go DeAndre Hopkins.
Good pick.
And I am going to go A.J. Brown.
Wow. All right. I'm going Justin Jefferson.
Okay.
And I'm going to go Mark Andrews.
Ooh. Going with the old tight end. All right. I like it. All right. So what do I have left here? Let me just make sure I got all these down. I've got Hurts. I've got Henry. I'm saving that other running back spot because I think I'm going to surprise you a little bit.
Dude, my buddy literally just texted me, Mark Andrews trade not looking great. Got that 30 seconds after I just picked him in our draft. What actually? This isn't good.
Am I missing anybody? Oh no, I took D-Hop. That's right.
Yeah, you took DeAndre Hopkins, yeah.
Yeah, I took D-Hop. All right. So I've got 4. I've got 4 on
5.
the board.
So you got 2. You got 2.
Yeah. So all right. I need another running back, and I got a few other players. So I'm going to take my 3rd wide receiver.
Okay.
And I'm going to go with Waddle. I'm going to go with Jalen Waddle. So I'm going to buddy up with you in that Miami game.
All right.
And then I am going to take I'm going to take my and I'm so confident that you're not going to pick my other running back or my tight end. I'm going to take the defense here.
Oh.
I'm taking the Bills.
Oh, wow. All right.
Yeah.
Monster. All right. I'm going to take Cooper Kupp.
Okay.
Man, I wish this was my actual fantasy team. We'd be in business. Let me get back to I'm going to take Cooper Kupp. So confident I'm not going to pick your other running back. Now that makes me want to find out who your other running back is and pick him. Oh, I'm going to take Diggs against Green Bay. Let's go.
All right.
That's my flex.
That's your flex. All right. That's a good pick. I like that one. That is a good pick. All right. I am going to take just because I won't let the suspense get you anymore. I am going to take as my second running back Kenneth Walker III from Seattle.
Wow. There we go. Now we're talking. I like it.
And let's see. I'm going to go for my flex. I am going to go Tony Pollard.
Wow. That was a good one, too. Zeke out?
He's hurting, and they've got a crazy favorable matchup.
Okay. I like both those picks a lot. A lot. All right, so I've got QB, kicker, and defense left.
Yep.
Kicker, let me give a Minnesota Viking legend Daniel Carlson some love.
Ooh.
Really, really happy we cut him after a few games, and now he's arguably the second best kicker in the NFL.
Yeah, that's Zimmer for you.
Yep, and then I gotta go with Josh Allen at QB. Let's go.
Ooh, that's a good pick. Good old Jay Allen.
The Allen Diggs connection.
That's right. Oh boy. Yeah, I like your Ertz pick. I am gonna go with
I didn't take Ertz. I took Andrews.
Or excuse me, Andrews. I tipped my hand. I'm gonna go with Zach Ertz.
Yeah, I was gonna say I wish I had taken Zach Ertz. Now that my buddy texted me that Andrews is terrible tonight. I mean, what is he? Like the game's going on. Like, show your listeners at home. This is proof I didn't cheat. What the 3 for 33 in the second? It could be worse. Could be worse.
Yeah,
Could be better, but it could be worse. Still 10-3.
Yeah, and then I have one more to round it out. Is I'm going to take.
Why don't you do two? Why don't you do two back to back? Because I got one final one.
Yeah, that's it. I have. I've got Ertz as my 10-in, and then my last spot to fill is my kicker, which is I'm going to take Jason Sanders, the kicker for Miami.
Cool. And I'll take the Eagles defense because they're playing Pittsburgh, and well, let's just face it. Pittsburgh might be in the market for another quarterback in this year's draft.
Yeah, the Trubisky experiment failed again. I think the biggest thing with that is I hope this is not the end for Tomlin, because I'm a big Tomlin guy. I love Mike Tomlin. The unfortunate part is that how NFL fan bases and franchises are. At some point, they just want change, even if it's not really warranted. And I feel like Tomlin might be at the end of his run, but it's too bad because I don't think he should be.
Minnesota Vikings legend Mike Tomlin. Some people forget. Crazy stat though, and you are probably more of a historian on this stuff. Haven't the Pittsburgh Steelers in the history of their franchise only had like 4 coaches ever?
Yeah, it's something crazy like that. Like they've had, I think it was something like there was this crazy stat because of course they're in the same division where Cleveland has had like more quarterbacks in the last like 30 years than Pittsburgh's had coaches.
Let me see this. I was doing some research for one of my series, and I read that because I was like, Bill Cowher, who is I think it went Tomlin, and there was a guy for a little bit, and then it was Bill Cowher. And then the guy who coached those Bradshaw teams, they coach history. So list of Pittsburgh Steelers head coaches. Here we go. I'm going to start the list. I'm going to start the list in 1969. Chuck Noll, 1969 and 1991. Dude coached for 22 years. Then they went right to Bill Cowher, 1992 to 2006. He did 14 years. And they've had Mike Tomlin, 2007 to present. They've had 3 coaches since 1969. What is going on? That's nuts. You can't get rid of Mike. I mean,
Can't get rid of Mike.
but the time's up. I mean, listen, Cowher was 14, Chuck Noll was 22. He's coming up on he's 15. So like the timing, like that's the but who are they gonna like those kind of coaches I don't want to say you keep the top ilk don't grow on trees. If they did, a lot of people would be in the market for them. And like, I don't know. I mean, you guys got Flores on the staff who I love. The guy, the offensive coordinator, Bieniemy, the enemy, like he hasn't gotten a shot, but I don't know who's like the hot shot coach that's coming up. I felt like they all went somewhere last year.
Yeah, I can't think of any off the top of my head that are. I mean, of course, I probably
the coordinator for the defensive coordinator for the Niners. That guy's good.
Oh yeah, and then it wasn't the defensive. Well, I mean, they've had their struggles this year, but there was also the defensive coordinator for the Rams too. I know he was in the mix for the Vikings. His name is eluding me for whatever reason, but yeah, he's another guy. Jim Harbaugh, maybe he'll come and coach.
I feel like we dodged a bullet with that one, man. That would have been so much of the same.
Yeah,
like it would have came in, it would have been awesome for a year, and then we just would have gotten worn out. Be like, dude, I don't want to hear your stances on abortion in the United States of America. I want you to coach football. Like, seriously, stop. Like, my God.
Well, and if you're in Minnesota and you're being force-fed Minnesota sports, we get enough of that brand of coaching from PJ Fleck as it is. So,
dude, all right. So, okay, this is great, and we'll end it on this. Why is that guy so annoying? Like, honestly, I cheer for the Gophers. I would be lying if I said I watched it because I think college football is insufferable and the NCAA is stupid. Nobody likes that guy. Nobody likes that guy. He's like the term wet blanket. He walks into a room and everybody gets quiet. You can just tell.
Yeah, I can tell you there is something just a little off-putting about him. And then I got word of a story, and I'll leave you on this one, and it's not a long one. I got word of a story that was like, if this is true, and it was from a fairly credible source, this totally plays into the odd feeling that I have about him. About 3 years ago, apparently there was like we're talking about the beginning of the season or a spring meeting, so they're kind of meeting all the players getting ready for the next season, everybody that's going to be returning, and supposedly he demanded of the team, and I guess it's a thing that when he enters into like their team meetings, that everyone stands up and gives him a round of applause.
Oh my God! Dictator stuff. Like, what are you? Oh, I'm start calling you Kim Jong-un. What, like, son? So, stop it.
I mean, and that kind of feeds into the idea of what I might dislike about him. It's just there's just this idea that he feels like he's just a superior human being, which I mean, certainly, some people have found success that way. The problem is that it makes you unrelatable, and people feel like you're disingenuous. So that tends to wear thin on people pretty quickly.
Yeah, cue ball. You're not that elite with that hairline, homeboy. But who is more hated, Richard Pitino or PJ Fleck?
I don't know, man. See, for me, I would say Fleck because
wow,
I had this weird thing with Pitino where like I wanted him to succeed so badly, like just because I was ready for Gopher basketball to be back. Because again, you and I are around the same age. Where I mean, those
Bobby Jackson,
those Clem Haskins runs, man,
Jacobson.
They were so much fun.
Much fun. Wait, real quick, how's Ben Johnson? Do people like him?
Yeah. I mean,
he's a Minnesota kid, and he's good in the recruiting AAU circuit. It's just like his X's and O's were tough. Oh my gosh, it's like, man, I know you might not have the personnel you want, but like, adapt,
right,
bro.
Well, Tanner, I really appreciate you joining me. It was a ton of fun. I had a lot of fun. I hope everyone that's listening and watching is hopefully having a lot of fun with us.
Are we live on YouTube? Are we live?
We are not live. No,
Oh,
no, not this go round. So
should have asked that an hour and a half ago.
sometimes we will go live. Our post game, if you ever get a wild hair, Tanner, our post game Vikings segments, we actually do go live, and we encourage people if they want to join, just join us. And sometimes it'll be just me and another co-host of mine, or we've had other people come in and we just talk ball for maybe an hour.
You want me to roll in 5 beers deep after I've recorded my video and just start throwing off hot takes, just throwing them out there?
Yeah, it depends on if we win, because if we win, I'm about maybe 6 high lifes in, and then if we lose, I'm at least a dozen Yag bombs down. So it's just it's ugly.
Opening night, Minnesota Timberwolves. I drink, but I'm not like a huge drinker. But opening night, Minnesota Timberwolves, I made myself a nice steak. I had a martini. I had a bottle of wine, and I'm ripped. I'm ripped, and I've got to record afterwards. So I'm watching the footage back the next day. I'm like, guy's a professional. Couldn't even tell he was drunk when he was recording. Like the next day, I was like, Death. I'm like, it's probably like you. Nobody can tell we're drunk. I'm going to let you guys know at home right now. If we're recording and you see a video after a game, 9 times out of 10, intoxicated.
Exactly. Well, again, Tanner, I really appreciate you. For anybody that's watching, of course, we'd appreciate a like, a subscription, subscribe, follow us. We are the Skol Purple Podcast. My name's Steggie. Tanner, I do want to punt it over to you before we close up. Anything that you want to plug, anywhere where folks can find your media and consume all of the wonderful things that you are currently doing?
Tanner's Cranium on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. That's where we met. It's on
That's
TikTok,
right.
and that's where got a nice little following. I make mostly sports videos, but top 10 lists. So right now I'm doing the top 10 greatest college football players post 1980. Next, I am doing the top 10. Ooh, breaking news. I'm doing the top 10 greatest Heisman seasons of all time. Then I'm going to do the top 10 greatest college football teams of all time. But I'm doing original series that are only on YouTube. So you get all of those series on TikTok and on YouTube. And on YouTube exclusively right now, greatest fantasy football seasons by a tight end. Next, I'm doing greatest fantasy football season by a wide receiver, then quarterback, then running back. And yeah, a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I have to tell you, right before we exit here, I did see your latest video on Matt Leinart, and it made me feel so old because I've realized I've come into the age where now when I watch highlights that occurred when I was a kid, they look like old-timey highlights that I used to watch when I was a kid. So
I responded to your comment. I have to cut together the clips at the end of it. I found an hour-long package of Matt Leinart, like hour clips on YouTube. Yeah. So I had to sort through an hour and edit. And I'm thinking while I'm watching this is, man, I thought he was way better when I was a kid than I do now. There was no pop. He might have been a product of the system. I was like reevaluating my ranking of him while I was doing this because I'd just done Tommy Frazier, and Tommy Frazier is like a man amongst boys. It's crazy though, because like I do a Reggie Bush video that Reggie Bush was the sickest of the sick. And I thought I was like, man, Reggie's going to go bonkers. People are going to love this. I almost didn't put Tommy Frazier on the list because I thought nobody knew who he was. I checked this morning, it had like 100,000 in like less than 24 hours. And I'm like, wait, the Tommy Frazier love out here is real. So it's kind of fun, actually, like for me, occasionally when the video that you don't expect to take off, because for me, it's about entertaining and educating like a younger generation because we're such prisoners of the moment of like, you guys need like I'm basketball is like my wheelhouse, but you have to understand there's no Michael Jordan without Julius Erving, and there's no Julius Erving without David Thompson, and there's no David Thompson without Elgin Baylor. So like you need to know where this came from. There's no there's no Patrick Mahomes without Doug Williams and Randall Cunningham and Warren Moon. You know what I'm saying? And so like for me, it's a lot of fun. So when you see a guy like Tommy Frazier get, like a massive viewing, like it's like, oh wow, there's a 12-year-old kid now who knows who Tommy Frazier is. Like, think about that. Like there's kids that know who Tommy Frazier is. And like, to me, like I did a Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf. I'm like, he's the original Steph Curry. Now there's kids who know who Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf is. Like, to me, that's like super, super cool. So I enjoy it. Any of the support, I appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely check out Tanner. His all of his stuff is super great. And if you are on TikTok, he wasn't kidding. A lot of his TikToks are just really great. And it's if you're somebody that's a sports fan, and certainly if you're around, I'd say anybody who's in their mid 30s or maybe older, it's great to go down memory lane with a lot of the stuff that he brings up. But if you are somebody younger than that, again, his videos are really educational and fun. I mean, that's kind of the point of it. He does a great job. So definitely check him out on TikTok, YouTube, and everything else he has out there. We always like to close the show with a little Skol. So I'm going to give it a Skol. I'm going to give it we'll kick into our outro. And again, thanks, Tanner. If you want to stick around, and then I'll catch you after the outro.
Go. I don't know the theme song, but let's go. Let's Skol.
Do it. Skol.
Skol.